Hello, my name is Bart Rickard, Manager of Customer Enablement with Golf Genius Software. In this video, we're going to be going over the steps to setting up your account as a new user and customer. Now keep in mind that many of these steps here on the left may have already been done and completed by your sales rep or another member of our team, but it's still important and a very good idea to go over these steps to better understand them. The first step that you should take when creating an account is setting up your customer managers. And your customer managers are the people who will have admin access to your account. So they'll be able to log in and manage all the events and leagues and trips created in your account. Examples would be assistant professionals, club shop managers, general managers, caddy masters, and anybody who you want to have access to manage these events and leagues. To set up your customer managers, go to Customer Settings, Managers, click on Add New Manager, enter the name and their email, and click Invite. The managers will then get an email invitation asking them to set a permanent password. They'll click on the link, create their permanent password, and then be able to log in at any time to manage your leagues and events in your account. The next step in setting up your account would be going and reviewing your default settings for your leagues and events. And you can do that by going to Customer Settings, Default Settings for Leagues and Events. And you'll see that the settings are separated by different tabs: General Settings, Handicap Settings, Rounds and Scheduling, and Tournaments and Scoring. Within these tabs, there's specific settings that will apply to all the leagues and events you create. So it's important to first, before creating all of your events and leagues, to go through these settings because they will be cloned over to all of your events and leagues as you create them. You'll see in the General Settings tab, there's many options like selecting your time zone, selecting the handle format, which is the display name format that will show on the leaderboard and scorecards and whatnot. You'll see some gender options and course and tee abbreviation options. Handicap settings, you will be able to say whether or not you will be using 18-hole indexes, 9-hole indexes. What handicap service provider are you using? You can select the handicap service provider and whether or not you want to be able to post scores. Do you want to use Rule 3-5 if multiple tees are being played? If so, then where do you want to adjust from? The forward, back, fewest players? You could scroll down and see more handicapping options. For instance, if you have a 9-hole tournament, are you going to be using the 18-hole scorecard and will the strokes be falling where they fall? Or will you be using 9-hole slope and ratings? Scrolling up, rounds and scheduling. So specifically talking about your pairings. Do you usually play in foursomes, twosomes, threesomes, fivesomes? And there's some optimization rules when using our automatic scheduler for when you allow us to create pairings. We'll be able to further optimize pairings by these settings that you select here. And if you're using round signups specifically for your leagues, you can also select some more options here. Tournaments and scoring, so all the games and formats that you will be playing, you can select your default tie-breaking method. So every time you create in a tournament within an event or a league, will automatically apply this default tie-breaking method. Are there participation points, more popular for possibly leagues? There's some advanced person points options, and you could also select whether you want to be able to enter hole-by-hole scores, 9-hole totals, or 18-hole totals. Now keep in mind, if you only enter 9 or 18-hole totals, we'll only be able to score limited types of formats, and you will not be able to post scores to your handicap service provider. And below that, there's some more leaderboard options as well. And it's important to remember that all these settings will be applied to all the future events and leagues that you create. To learn more about these specific settings, you can search our knowledge base by searching default settings. Now let's scroll up to the top and talk about our next step in setting up an account. And that is adding your courses. Go to Customer Settings, Course Details. And this is where you can enter the scorecard for your course. Or if you have a 36-hole facility, you'll add 2 courses. Or if you have a 27-hole facility, you'll likely add all 3 different combinations of the 9-hole courses. To add a course, click on Add Course. Enter the course name, abbreviation that will show on reporting. You'll see that there's some advanced course detail options. For instance, adding the green depth to all the holes. So if you're using hole location sheets, you'll want to add the green depth. You can change the hole labels that will be printed on the scorecard. So if you want to, instead of calling them holes 1, 2, 3, and 4, you can call them something else. If you like to have time par on your scorecards and other reporting, you can enter the pace of play and the time par and how many minutes it takes to complete each hole, including the transition. If you have a priority in how you double up on shotgun holes, you can go down and enter the shotgun priority here. And then down below is where you can enter your tee information. So you need to at first enter your first tee, slope and rating, select the color, front nine and back nine slope and rating if there is one available. We suggest entering it, especially if you'll be posting front nine or back nine scores. And enter the yardage, par, and handicap. And after you're done adding the yardage, par, and handicap to the first tee, simply click Add Tee down below and complete all the other tees that need to be added to the course. After you've entered the tee information for all of your tees, click Save on the bottom right, and your course will be saved. At this point, this course can be used for all of your future events and leagues in your account. After adding your course or courses, you can go on to the next step in uploading your default logo and banner for your account. To do that, go to Customer Settings, Logos, Banners, and Backgrounds. Logos can show up on scorecards and other printed material. They can show up on the TV leaderboard, on all of your portals, mobile app, and other areas. Banners can show up on your TV display leaderboard, in your portals, and they could also be used as headers in your emails that you'd be sending to your players. And background images can be used to put in the background of a TV display and the background of your portal. So simply go to Choose File to upload your logo, select the logo, and upload the logo. After the logo is uploaded, you can go to Banners, choose File, and select your banner. Click Upload, and the banner will be uploaded. To learn more about managing your logos and banners, search logos and banners and background images in the knowledge base. After uploading your logos and banners, you can then go on to set up your default portal. To do that, go to Customer Settings, Default League/Event Portal. As a reminder, every league and event that you create, portal is created for that event or league. This portal is where players and spectators and other members can go to view information specific to that event, like tee sheets, results, standings, and much more. So every time you create an event or league, the template that is cloned is the default portal. So it's very important to set up the default portal to your specific needs of your club. Here we're looking at the default portal for this club. The first thing to take a look at is the structure of the portal. At the top you have sections, and within each section there are some pages. In regards to sections, you can go and you could delete sections if you'd like. You can go ahead and rename them. For instance, I may want to edit this and just say Photo Gallery. And you could also reorder the sections by going Home, General Portal Settings, scrolling down, and just click and drag and say, for instance, maybe I want the Photo Gallery to be over here. Save the settings, and the Photo Gallery will move to the left here. Now let's talk about the pages within each section. You'll see under this section there's a photo stream page and event talk page. You could delete these pages. So for instance, I may want to delete event talk. You can go on and you could add a new page. So when I click new page, I'm going to add a new page under the photo gallery page. So if I scroll all the way down, you'll see all of your available portal pages that you can add. I may want to add another photo stream page. When adding any pages, you'll see at the top there's an option to make it public or private. By default, they'll probably be private, and that means if a player tries to access that link, they'll be asked to log in with their email and password or a GGID. You can bypass that step by allowing it to be a public page, so every time they click on that link, they will not be asked to log in. You could also make it a splash page, which is the home page for that portal. So obviously you can only have one splash page per portal. You can also go in and edit current pages that are already created. For instance, tee sheet, I can rename and say pairings, and I can make it a public page. And you could also move them from section to section if you'd like. Save the page. Now let's take a look at the general settings, which we were before earlier. General portal settings is found in the other section. You could change this color scheme at the top. You could add a background image, which adds some color and flair to the portal. You could add a flash message, which scrolls up at the top. And there's some other more advanced options. Make sure to take the time to set up the best possible default portal that you can. And once you're finished, you'll be ready to move on to the next step. Now let's navigate back to the Customer Center and talk about our next step, and that is uploading the master roster. The master roster is your golden list of players. So for clubs, that would be your membership roster. When hovering over the master roster tab, you'll see some options. You can add players to the master roster. That would be manually, so you would simply type in players and enter their information and their data one by one. Obviously a pretty tedious process, but again, can be used if needed. You could upload the master roster from Spreadsheet. So if you have a spreadsheet of all your players and your members with all their information, you can compile that spreadsheet and upload it to our system. If you're using our SSO integration with one of your club website providers, we certainly recommend reaching out to your club website provider and one of our reps to get help in uploading your master roster, because there may be some very important information that needs to be uploaded there, and there's a certain process that needs to be taken. So if I go to upload master roster from Spreadsheet, you'll see the option to choose a file. Here's an example of what a master roster spreadsheet could look like. You'll see at the top there'll be a header for every column. You'll see email, first name, last name, handicap ID, date of birth, gender, and member number. And down below you'll see all the information. Now it's always good to add as much information as possible, but the information that you're seeing here is very highly recommended. It will help you down the road as you manage leagues and events. For instance, handicap ID. If you are using one of our handicap service integrations, you can enter the handicap service ID there, and it makes it easier to update handicap indexes and to post scores. Date of birth, gender, member number, any more information you want to add could always be helpful down the road as you're managing events and leagues. When all of your information that you need is compiled in the spreadsheet, you can go and choose File. Select the spreadsheet, and there will be a step where you may need to match columns. So what our system is doing is looking at the spreadsheet and looking how the columns are titled. And it gets smart and will know that email means email, first name it means first name. So there may be cases where you may have to match some of these columns. Any unmatched columns that you see down below, for instance member number, will be uploaded as a custom field. To learn more about custom fields, search custom field in our knowledge base. Click on Import Spreadsheet when you're ready, and all of your players will be added to the master roster. And again, you could always add players manually one by clicking on Add Players to Master Roster. Enter the information. Click Save Roster, and they'll be entered into the system. After you've uploaded your master roster, the next step is to set up the default tees for all of your players. Now this step isn't absolutely required to be done, however it is something we highly suggest because it'll save you an immense amount of time as you're setting up your future events and leagues. Every player has the usual tee that they play from when they play in events at your club. Some players may play from the blues, seniors may usually play from the whites, and so on. So what we want to do is we want to set up the default tees for all the players in your master roster. To do that, go to Master Roster, Manage Player Default Tees. You could simply select the players to play a specific tee. So I clicked Set Default Tee, and I could assign all of these players to the blue tee or the red tee or wherever I want. You could also use filters. For instance, if I click Filter, I could say I want to filter all the players to be only female players. I select all, set default tee, and I'm going to set all the ladies off of the red tees. I could edit the filter, go back to the men, click Go, select all, and then I could then go and set all the men off the blue tees. You can also go to the master roster and set player default tees individually. For instance, if I click on Alyssa, and go to the default tees tab, I can go on and set or change her default tee. And again, this step will save you an immense amount of time down the road and throughout the season. The next step that we suggest taking when setting up your account would be creating categories for your events, leagues, and trips. To do that, go to Events, Leagues, and Trips. In order to have that option, you must first create at least one event. So when you go to this page, create an event, go back to the customer roster, and you'll see an option to add a new category. And categories are simply a way to organize your events, leagues, and trips throughout the year. These are strictly used to organize the customer center, the manager site for you, the manager. We suggest creating categories that would be useful and relevant for your specific situation at your club. For instance, I may create one category called men's events, and another called ladies events, and another may be outings. And you'll see down below, you'll have a list of all of your categories. And you can click and drag to move them. And as you create events, you can move them into the specific category where they should be assigned. After creating your categories, you can go on to the next step, which is creating your seasons. To do that, go to Season Management, Seasons. Now, of course, seasons are pretty simple. Every golf club has a season, and you can separate your events, leagues, and trips by season. And this is beneficial for various reasons in terms of organization and transitioning from season to season. To create a season, click on New Season, and I may say 2018 season, and you can set it as your current season. Now, as you go on through season to season, you'll obviously see a list of all your seasons, and just make sure that your current season is selected. The final step in setting up your account is listing your events, leagues, and trips on your club website. So obviously you at least need to have your events, leagues, and trips created for the season. So once that's complete, you can go ahead and list these events, leagues, and trips on your club website. Now if you're using our SSO integration, you could skip this step. Simply contact our support team or your sales rep, and they will set you in the right direction and work with your club website provider to get your SSO integration set up and to get your events, leagues, and trips listed on your club website. If you're not using our SSO integration, you will likely have to add your events, leagues, and trips to your club website yourself. And to do that, you can use directories. Go to Directories and Registration, Directories of Events, Leagues, and Trips. And you could have different directories. You could simply list one directory on your global website that has all of your leagues, events, and trips, and that will be created for you by default. So a directory is simply a list of all of your leagues, events, and trips for your members and players to see on your club website and to access all the portals. To add a new directory, click on New Directory, and I may say Men's Events. Click Next. And you can go ahead and all of your events, leagues, events, and trips will be listed down here, and you can select which ones you would like to use. However, what we really suggest doing is using categories and syncing your categories with your directories, and this will make it much easier to transition from season to season. So simply say pull leagues and events automatically for select categories, and I want to use this men's event directory and sync it with my men's events category. So every time an event is added to this category, it will also be added to this directory with no further action needed by you. Once you set up your settings for your directory, you can go ahead and share it. And clicking the sharing tab, you can see some options. You could simply link it, and you'll see here you could add that link anywhere in your club website, and your members will click on it and they'll have access to the directory. If you scroll down, you'll see you could also embed it. So you can copy all the embedding code, and you could actually embed the directory into your club website. Here's an example of a men's events directory. You'll see on the left all the events. Now it's also important to understand that there's no date selected yet, and the events are organized by date. So to select the dates for every event, you have to go to the event and add some rounds to that event, and that will by default create dates for the event. Go ahead and create all the directories that you'd like to list on your event website, for instance ladies events, junior events, and whatever you'd like. And don't forget to add the rounds to all the events to make sure they're ordered chronologically in all the directories. If you'd like to learn more about directories, go to our knowledge base and search directories. Thank you for watching our video presentation. As always, if you need assistance with our software, feel free to utilize our knowledge base.